Hello everyone, my name is Mr. Thobwe and thank you for joining me today. In this presentation, I want to share the story of a first grade English learner I will call Alex. He recently came to the United States from a refugee camp in Thailand, and his journey gives us a clear picture of the challenge and stress that many English learners bring with them. My goal today is not only to talk about Alex's background and language development, but also to highlight ways that teachers, families, and communities can work together to support students like him. As I go through each part of this case study, I encourage you to think about your own students and how this strategy might work in your classrooms. Together, we will look at Alex's language, culture, learning style, and what we can do as educators to help him succeed. Alex is 7 years old, and before moving to the United States, he lived in the Mela refugee camp in Thailand. His family is part of the Karen community who fled Myanmar because of conflict and instability. Life in the refugee camp was very difficult. Families lived in crowded homes, resources were very limited, and children often had only a little access to school. There were almost no books, no computers, and no consistent teachers. Even with these challenges, Alex's parents worked hard to support his learning at home. They taught him Korean, his first language, through daily conversations, stories, and songs. This transformation in his home language is very important because it actually helped him as he learns English now. When we look at Alex's story, we see more than just a student who is learning a new language. We see resilience, cultural identity, and the support of a family that values education, even under very difficult circumstances. As teachers, it reminds us to look deeper than just test scores or classroom behavior. Every student brings a story with them, and when we understand that story, we are better able to guide their learning. At home, Alex speaks only Korean. His parents know very little English, so most of his English exposure happens right here at school. This means that his opportunity to practice English outside of the classroom are very limited, which can slow down his progress if teachers do not provide intentional support. When Alex first joined his ESL pull-out class, he felt very small and shy. He sat quietly, often unsure of what others would say. But something powerful happened. He started learning by watching. He carefully observed his classmates, copied their actions, and used gestures when he did not have the words. This shows us that children can be strong visual and social learners, even when they do not yet have the language. It is important for us as educators to recognize this stage. Silence in the classroom does not mean a lack of learning. It can mean a student is carefully processing and building understanding. For Alex, watching and listening became his first bridge into English. In Alex's first week of school, I noticed that he preferred to watch quietly rather than speak. For example, when the teacher asked him to point to a picture of a cat, he did it right away, but stayed silent. This showed that he was listening and understanding, even if he was not ready to use words yet. By the second week, we saw a change. During small group activities, Alex started using short phrases like, "This is a ball." It was simple, but it was a big step forward. He was beginning to take risks with language, which shows confidence was starting to grow. By the third week, he showed something very important. He has a strong memory for sounds. He was blending letters together to make words, sometimes with small mistakes. For example, he must say bleep instead of bleep, but he kept trying and improving. By the fourth week, Alex showed how quickly children can grow when given the right environment. During a puppet story activity, he first acted out the story with gestures, then he used single words. Finally, he spoke in full sentence like, "The dog is running." He also demonstrated respect by listening carefully and waiting his turn to speak. These observations tell us that Alex learns best when activities are visual, hands-on, and step-by-step. He thrives when he can see, hear, and they practice in small, supportive ways. English sounds can be very challenging for Alex because his first language Korean does not include all of the same sounds or letter combinations. For example, when he sees the word span, he might pronounce it as a span. This is a common pattern because Korean speakers often add a vowel before certain sound clusters. The good news is that Alex is strong with single letter sounds, songs, and rhymes. He enjoys repeated sounds when they are part of a game or song. For example, in a classroom game called Sound Hop, Alex hops in on letter cards and see the sound out loud. At first, he struggled say bleep for the word bleep, but after practicing with sport, he was able to pronounce it correctly. Activities that make sounds playful, like tracing letters in sand, clapping out syllables, or singing sounds with rhymes, help him learn without feeling pressure. For Alex, fun and repetition are key to building his confidence with English sounds. When it comes to words and word addings, Alex often forgets to add plurals, past tense, or suffix. For example, he must say two dogs instead of two dogs, or yesterday I walked instead of yesterday I walked. This is very normal for English learners because many languages, including Korean, do not use the same word ending as English. However, with practice, Alex has already shown that he can notice patterns. For example, when learning about opposites, he figured out that happy becomes unhappy with just one prefix. As teachers, we can support him with picture cards, word games, and sentence frames like he blank a blank period. For instance, he can practice filling in the blanks with words like he has a ball or she ate an apple. These simple sports allow him to practice grammar naturally while focusing on meaning, not just rules. Alex's grammar is also influenced by Korean. In his home language, verbs do not change form the way they do in English, and helping words like is or are often not used. Because of this, Alex must say she eats now when he means she is eating now. One effective strategy is to give him sentence frames and lots of practice with peers. For example, during a picture activity, he learned to say she is eating an apple. At first, he left out the word is, but with repeat practice and teacher modeling, he started using the correct form. This shows us how important it is to model clear English, give students structured ways to practice, and create low pressure opportunity for them to try out sentences with support. Vocabulary is another area where Alex is growing quickly. He understands more words than he can say, which is common for English learners. However, words with multiple meanings are very challenging. For example, the word bat can mean an animal or a baseball bat, and he sometimes confuses the two. To support him, I use pictures, word maps, and simple sentence. For example, show a picture of a bat fly and a baseball bat side by side helps him see the difference. Using word webs where we connect a word to pictures, synonyms, or action also helps Alex understand and remember new words. The key is to make vocabulary visible and connect to real-life experience, not just memorize a list. When Alex sees and uses words in context, he remembers them much more easily. Alex is often shy and rarely starts a conversation with classmates or adults. In Korean culture, children are taught to show respect by being quiet around adults. This cultural value can sometimes be misunderstood in classrooms where a teacher may expect students to speak up quickly. To help Alex practice social communication, we use turn-taking games, role play, and sentence starter like may I or can I. For example, in one partner activity, Alex used the phrase may I borrow your crayon. He said it correctly and smiled because he felt proud of himself. Parents can also support this at home by practicing polite phrases in everyday situations. This kind of practice builds confidence, helps him interact socially, and allows him to feel comfortable using English in real conversations. Alex's culture plays a big role in how he learns. In Mela refugee camp, former schooling was very limited, so he learned many things simply by watching and copying others. This has made him very resilient and adaptable. At home, his parents continue to support him by telling Korean stories, using pictures cards, and singing traditional songs. In Tennessee, the Korean community also celebrates cultural events like the Korean New Year, which helps Alex stay connected to his roots while building new experiences in the United States. As teachers, we can bring this culture into the classroom. For example, we can use Korean folktales during story time or include Korean songs in a lesson. By doing this, we show respect for his background and create a bridge between his home life and school life. This makes learning more meaningful and helps Alex feel that his culture is valued. To support Alex, let's need to be simple, step by step, and connect to his culture and home life. We do not need big or complicated change. Small shifts can make a huge difference for a student like him. Let me share a few strategies I have found helpful. For sounds and pronunciation, Alex benefits from playful practice. Songs, trace letters, and blended games make learning fun and help him remember. For example, when he sings along to a funny song, he not only hears the sounds, but also feels confident repeating them. For vocabulary and reading, pictures and real objects are powerful tools. Word webs and story retelling activities allow Alex to build meaning instead of memorizing words. For instance, when we read a story, I might pause and ask Alex to point to a picture or retell the event with just a few words. For grammar and sentence frames and guided practice give him the structure he needs. Instead of just asking him to write freely, I might provide a frame like she is blank in a blank period. These parts help him practice the grammar while still focusing on meaning. For social communication, turn-taking games, role-play, and polite phrases help him find his voice in the classroom. When Alex used the phrase, "May I borrow your crayon?" during a partner activity, it was a breakthrough moment for him socially and linguistically. For cultural integration, including Korean songs, stories, and even holidays in the classroom shows Alex that his identity matters. This builds trust, motivation, and pride. When students see their cultural value in school, they are more willing to take risks with language. Now I want to pause and ask you which of these strategies could you try in your own classroom this week to support an English learner. Think about something small, maybe using a sentence frame or adding a visual. Even one simple step can make a lasting impact. Let me give you an example of how this looks in action. One day, we used a puppet story activity in class. At first, Alex used only gestures to show what the character were doing. Then he moved to single words like dog or run. Finally, he put those words together into full sentence saying, "The dog is running." What made this activity successful was that it built step by step. It started with something Alex could do without words, then give him chance to add words, and finally support him to create a full sentence. To make the activity even more meaningful, I used a Korean folk tale, but I told in English. This allowed Alex to connect with a story from his own culture while practicing English vocabulary and sentence structure. By the end of the lesson, he was not only speaking more confidently, but also smiling because he recognized a part of his own culture in the classroom. Parents and community play a very important role in Alex's progress. Even if his parents do not know much English, they are still a powerful partner in his learning. For example, they can use pictures, cards, or simple word lists at home to practice with him. That little bit of support reinforces what he learns in school. The Korean community also gives Alex street cultural events like the Korean New Year celebration, help him build social skills, remember vocabulary, and feel proud of who he is. When schools connect with families and community groups, students like Alex feel a stronger sense of belonging. This reminds us as teachers that family engagement is not about parents being fluent in English. It is about valuing what they bring, inviting them into the learning process, and give them simple tools to help at home. Alex's case study shows us that language learning is never just about grammar and vocabulary. It is connected to culture, emotions, family, and identity. Here are some key takeaways. For the strength, Alex is motivated, has a strong memory for sounds, and carries deep respect for his culture. For the challenge, he struggles with certain sounds, grammar add-ins, and vocabulary with multiple meanings. He is also shy when speaking in groups. In the instruction approach, the most effective strategies are simple, visual, structured, culturally responsive, and connected to family support. When we recognize both the strength and challenge, we can create a classroom where English learners do not just survive, but thrive academically, socially, and emotionally. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the references that inform this case study. They include research on second language development, culturally responsive teaching, and supporting refugee and immigrant students. The strategies I share with you today are not only useful for Alex, but they can also be applied to many other English learners in different contexts. My hope is that this case study encourages us all to look at our students more deeply and to desire lessons that value who they are and where they come from.